The deep space around the outer rim territories held nothing but cold stars and empty darkness. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U-EZA Valiant, watching the sensor displays show the same readings they had shown for weeks. Nothing moved out here except their own ship cutting through space at a steady pace. The reconnaissance mission had been routine so far, and Jake hoped it would stay that way. Lieutenant Amy Parker sat at her tactical station running system checks for the third time that morning. Her fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease as she monitored the ship's weapons and defensive systems. Everything worked perfectly, but she knew they could change in an instant out here in unknown space. The silence between stars always made her nervous, even though she had been doing this job for 5 years. Chief Petty Officer Carlos Rivera hunched over his communications console, listening to the background noise of space. Most of it was just static and natural radiation from distant stars, but his trained ear could pick out artificial signals from hundreds of light years away. His job was to listen for anything that might threaten human colonies or reveal new intelligence. About alien activities in this sector of the galaxy. Commander Lisa Grant walked between the engineering stations, checking readouts and talking quietly with her technicians. The Valiant's experimental fusion drive required constant attention, and she took pride in keeping it running at peak efficiency. The new drive systems made their ship faster than most vessels in the human fleet, but the technology was still being tested. She understood every bolt and circuit in the engine room and trusted her equipment completely. Jake looked at the mission clock showing they had been out here for 3 months. The orders from Fleet Command were simple: patrol the outer rim and watch for any signs of alien activity. Intelligence reports suggested that several hostile species might be moving through this area, but so far they had found nothing. The emptiness of space made it easy to think they were alone in the universe. Dr. Rivera suddenly straightened at his station and held up one hand for silence. His equipment had picked up something unusual in the background noise. The signal was weak and heavily encrypted, but definitely artificial. He worked quickly to isolate the transmission and run it through the ship's decoding systems. Whatever was out there was trying very hard to keep their communications secret. Amy noticed Rivera's activity and quietly activated the ship's passive sensors to scan for the source of the transmission. The signal appeared to be coming from a location approximately 2 light hours away in the direction of the Kepler system. Her tactical display showed no visible ships or structures in that area, but the transmission was definitely real. She marked the location and prepared to recommend a course change to investigate. Lisa felt the ship's engines change rhythm slightly as the navigation system automatically adjusted their heading toward the signal source. The fusion drive could accelerate them to incredible speeds, but it would still take several hours to reach the transmission point. She began preparing her systems for possible combat operations, even though they had no idea what they might find when they arrived. Decoding process took nearly an hour before the ship's computers could break through the alien encryption. When the translation finally appeared on Rivera's screen, his face went pale as he read the contents. The message was a tactical communication between ships of something called the Hegemony Coalition, discussing detailed plans for attacking human settlements across multiple star systems. Jake read the translated message over Rivera's shoulder and felt ice form in his stomach. The aliens were talking about human colonies as if they were insect nests that needed to be destroyed. They discussed the final cleansing of the human infestation, with the casual tone of exterminators planning to spray for bugs. The level of detail in their attack plans showed they had been watching human activities for months. The message revealed that a massive alien fleet was already moving toward human space with coordinated strikes planned against 12 different star systems. The aliens clearly believed that humans were weak and primitive enemies who could be easily destroyed. Their communications showed complete confidence that the upcoming attacks would succeed without significant resistance from human forces. Amy plotted the alien attack routes on her tactical display and realized the scope of the threat. The Hegemony Coalition had positioned their forces to hit every major human settlement simultaneously. The first wave would target the outer colonies, while follow-up attacks would strike at the core systems, including Earth itself. The aliens had planned this operation with military precision and overwhelming force. Rivera continued monitoring the alien communications and discovered that the enemy fleet was much larger than anything humans had ever faced. The messages referenced hundreds of warships moving in perfect coordination toward human space. The aliens discussed their weapons and defenses as if they were vastly superior to anything humans might use against them. They expected the entire war to be over within days. Lisa checked the ship's navigation systems and calculated that the nearest human military base was 6 days away at maximum speed. The alien fleet would reach the first human colonies in less than 4 days, according to their own communications. Even if the Valiant left immediately and pushed their engines beyond safe limits, they could not warn the colonies in time to mount an effective defense. Jake studied the tactical situation and realized they faced an impossible choice. They could try to race back to human space and warn the military, but the colonies would be destroyed before help could arrive. They could attempt to send a long-range message, but the aliens would detect it and change their plans. Or they could try something that went against every rule in the military handbook. The bridge fell silent as Jake considered their options. His crew waited for orders while monitoring the continued flow of alien communications. The Hegemony Coalition was discussing the final preparations for their attack with the confidence of predators about to strike helpless prey. They had no idea that humans were listening to their every word. Amy pulled up the ship's weapons inventory and began calculating what kind of damage the Valiant could inflict against alien forces. Their reconnaissance vessel was fast and well armed, but not designed for major combat operations. Against a few enemy ships, they might have a chance, but the alien fleet numbered in the hundreds. Still, even a small delay might give the colonies time to evacuate. Rivera detected movement on his long-range sensors as the first alien ships began entering human space. The enemy was moving exactly according to the schedule discussed in their communications. Time was running out, and whatever decision Jake made would have to be made quickly. The lives of millions of humans across 12 star systems hung in the balance. Lisa felt the tension on the bridge as everyone waited for their commander's decision. The Valiant's crew had trained for situations like this, but no simulation could prepare them for the reality they now faced. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and too far from help to make any difference by conventional means. Yet they were the only humans who knew what was coming. Jake looked at each member of his crew and saw the same determination in their eyes that he felt in his own heart. They were soldiers, and they had sworn an oath to protect human lives, no matter the cost. The alien messages had made one thing perfectly clear. The Hegemony Coalition viewed humans as insects to be exterminated. That attitude was about to become their first and most dangerous mistake. The commander's voice was steady when he finally spoke. Set course to intercept the alien advance guard. All hands to battle stations. We're going to show these aliens that humans don't die quietly. The Valiant's engines roared to life as Lisa pushed the fusion drive far beyond its normal operating parameters. Warning lights flashed across her engineering console, but she ignored them as the ship accelerated toward the alien advance guard. The experimental drive systems had never been tested at these power levels, but desperate times called for desperate measures. She rerouted power from non-essential systems and prayed the engines would hold together long enough to reach their target. Amy worked frantically at her tactical station, modifying the ship's weapon systems for maximum effectiveness against alien technology. The intercepted communications had revealed details about enemy shield frequencies and armor configurations. She reprogrammed their energy weapons to cycle through different frequencies and converted their mining charges into makeshift torpedoes. Every piece of equipment on the ship was being turned into a potential weapon. Rivera established a secure communication link with the nearest human colonies and began transmitting the critical intelligence they had gathered. The tactical data about alien weaknesses could save thousands of lives if the colony defense forces could adapt their weapons quickly enough. He also sent detailed information about the Hegemony Coalition's attack plans and force dispositions to every human military installation within range. Jake studied the tactical display, showing the approach vectors for both his ship and the alien advance guard. The enemy consisted of 3 destroyer-class vessels moving in formation toward the Kepler system. Each alien ship was larger and more heavily armed than the Valiant, but they were not expecting resistance from human forces. Surprise would be his only advantage in the coming battle. The asteroid belt around Kepler's outer planets provided the perfect location for an ambush. The dense field of rocky debris would mask the Valiant's approach and give them cover during the engagement. Amy plotted a course that would bring them into the asteroid field just ahead of the alien formation. They would have only one chance to strike before the enemy could respond with overwhelming firepower. Lisa monitored the ship's systems as they approached the asteroid belt at dangerous speeds. The navigation computers worked constantly to avoid collisions with the larger rocks while maintaining their intercept course. She had installed additional shielding around the fusion core and redirected power to the structural integrity fields. The ship groaned under the stress, but held together as they dove into the asteroid field. The first alien destroyer appeared on sensors, exactly where the intercepted communications had predicted. The hegemony vessel moved through space with arrogant confidence, showing no signs of increased alertness or defensive preparations. Their long-range sensors had not detected the Valiant hidden among the asteroids. Amy armed all weapons and prepared to engage the moment Jake gave the order. Rivera picked up additional alien communications as the enemy formation spread out to search the asteroid field. The aliens were discussing the mineral wealth of the asteroids and planning to strip mine the entire belt after destroying the human colonies. Their casual attitude about genocide made his blood boil, but he forced himself to focus on gathering tactical intelligence about their movements and capabilities. The lead alien destroyer passed within striking distance, and Jake ordered the attack. Amy fired every weapon the Valiant possessed in a concentrated barrage that overwhelmed the enemy's shields and tore through their armor. The alien ship's hull cracked open, and atmosphere vented into space as secondary explosions rippled through their engineering sections. The first enemy vessel was destroyed before they could send a distress signal. The second alien destroyer detected the attack and began evasive maneuvers while charging its weapons. Amy had anticipated this response and used the ship's superior maneuverability to stay hidden behind a large asteroid. She fired mining charges equipped with proximity sensors that detonated against the enemy's shields. The explosions weakened their defenses and created gaps that follow-up energy blasts could exploit. Lisa felt the ship shudder as alien weapons fire struck their port shields. The enemy's weapons were more powerful than expected, but the Valiant's experimental shielding held against the assault. She rerouted additional power to the defensive systems while maintaining maximum thrust. The ship danced between asteroids, with Amy calling out course corrections to avoid both enemy fire and collision with debris. The third alien destroyer moved to flank their position, but Jake had prepared for this tactic. He ordered a course change that took them deeper into the asteroid field, where the larger enemy ships would have difficulty maneuvering. Amy used precisely timed gravitational charges to redirect several asteroids into the path of the pursuing vessels. The improvised asteroid bombardment caught the aliens completely off guard. Rivera monitored alien communications as their formation broke apart in confusion. The hegemony forces were not trained to fight in asteroid fields, and their rigid tactical doctrine made it difficult for them to adapt to unconventional human tactics. He detected growing panic in their transmissions as they realized the humans were using the environment itself as a weapon against them. The second alien destroyer tried to ram the Valiant when its weapons systems were damaged by asteroid impacts. Amy saw the attack coming and fired their remaining mining charges directly into the enemy's path. The explosions shattered the alien ship's forward armor and caused a catastrophic failure in their main reactor. The destroyer broke apart in a brilliant flash that lit up the entire asteroid field. The surviving alien vessel attempted to retreat, but Jake was not willing to let them escape and warned the main fleet. Amy used their last energy weapon charges to disable the enemy's engines and communication systems. The alien ship drifted helplessly among the asteroids while the Valiant moved in to capture whatever intelligence they could from the wreckage. Lisa worked to repair the damage from the battle while they searched the disabled alien vessel. The Valiant had taken hits to their shield generators and several weapon systems were offline. More importantly, they had lost 3 crew members when an alien energy blast penetrated their hull armor. The cost of victory was always measured in human lives, and Jake felt the weight of command heavy on his shoulders. Rivera accessed the alien ship's computer systems and downloaded terabytes of tactical data about hegemony coalition forces. The intelligence included detailed schematics of enemy weapons and defensive systems, along with communication codes and fleet deployment information. This data would be invaluable to human military forces preparing to defend against the main alien. Attack.Amy analyzed the alien technology and discovered several critical weaknesses in their designs. The hegemony forces relied heavily on standardized equipment that could be countered once humans understood how it worked. Their shields operated on fixed frequencies that could be disrupted, and their weapons had limited effectiveness against rapidly changing defensive configurations. Human adaptability was proving to be a decisive advantage. The battle had delayed the alien advance by several hours and provided crucial intelligence to human forces throughout the sector. Rivera transmitted the captured data to every human military installation, while Amy prepared tactical recommendations based on their combat experience. The aliens had expected to face weak and primitive human defenses, but instead encountered innovative tactics they could not counter. Jake looked at the tactical display showing the main hegemony fleet adjusting their approach in response to the loss of their advance guard. The aliens were no longer treating humans as insignificant pests to be easily exterminated. Their communications showed increased caution and respect for human military capabilities. The Valiant's desperate gambit had succeeded in changing the enemy's entire strategic assessment. Lisa managed to restore most of their damaged systems, but the ship needed extensive repairs before they could engage in another major battle. Fusion drive was operating at barely acceptable levels, and several critical components were showing stress fractures. They had pushed their technology to its absolute limits and beyond, but the sacrifice had been worth the intelligence they gathered. Rivera detected new alien communications indicating that the Hegemony Coalition was requesting additional reinforcements and revising their attack plans. The loss of 3 destroyers had forced them to acknowledge that humans possessed unexpected military capabilities. Their arrogant confidence was beginning to crack as they realized this would not be the easy conquest they had anticipated. Crew of the Valiant had struck the first blow in what would become humanity's greatest test of survival. They had proven that human ingenuity and determination could overcome superior alien technology when combined with tactical innovation and absolute courage. The galaxy was about to learn that underestimating humanity was a mistake that few enemies would survive to repeat. The tactical data from the Valiant spread through human space like wildfire as military commanders realized the scope of the threat they faced. Admiral Patricia Stone received the intelligence transmission aboard her flagship UES Liberty while conducting fleet exercises near the Mars orbital shipyards. The captured alien communications revealed an enemy force larger than anything humanity had ever encountered, but also showed weaknesses that could be exploited by innovative tactics and adaptive technology. Dr. Nathan Brooks worked around the clock in his laboratory developing countermeasures against hegemony coalition weapons and defenses. The alien technology relied on standardized configurations that made it powerful but predictable. His teams created adaptive shielding systems that could shift frequencies in real time to counter enemy weapons. A new defensive technology would give human ships a crucial advantage in the coming battles. Captain Helen Davis commanded the battleship UES Defender and immediately began converting civilian vessels into auxiliary warships. Cargo haulers became mobile supply platforms, while mining ships were equipped with military-grade weapons and armor. The human response demonstrated the species' greatest strength, the ability to adapt existing resources to meet new challenges. Every available vessel was being pressed into service for the defense of human space at the orbital shipyards. Around Earth worked at maximum capacity to retrofit existing ships with the new defensive systems and weapons modifications. Engineers incorporated the tactical data from the Valiant's engagement to create ammunition specifically designed to penetrate alien armor. The manufacturing facilities that normally produced civilian goods were converted to military production with remarkable speed and efficiency. Patricia studied the enemy fleet dispositions and realized that the hegemony coalition was making a fundamental error in their strategic planning. The aliens were concentrating their forces for overwhelming attacks against individual targets instead of dispersing to guard against human counterattacks. Their rigid military doctrine made them predictable despite their numerical advantage. She began developing battle plans that would exploit this weakness. Nathan's research teams discovered that alien shield technology operated on quantum frequencies that could be disrupted by properly calibrated human weapons. The breakthrough came when they analyzed the energy signatures from the Valiant's successful attacks. Human technology was more primitive than alien systems, but also more flexible and adaptable. This technological diversity would prove crucial. In the coming conflict, Helen coordinated with civilian authorities to establish supply lines and communication networks throughout human space. The defense effort required unprecedented cooperation between military and civilian organizations. Merchant captains volunteered to carry supplies to remote outposts while passenger liners evacuated civilians from threatened colonies. Every human in the galaxy was contributing to the war effort in whatever way they could. The hegemony coalition monitored human communications and grew increasingly concerned about the rapid mobilization they observed. Overlord Zexhai commanded the alien fleet from his massive flagship and studied reports of human activities with growing unease. The intelligence indicated that humans were adapting their technology and tactics much faster than his strategists had predicted. Their computer models had not accounted for such rapid innovation under pressure. Patricia assembled her fleet commanders for a strategic conference aboard the Liberty. The human force consisted of only 37 warships against nearly 200 alien vessels, but she had advantages that the enemy could not understand. Human crews were trained to think independently and adapt to changing situations, while alien forces followed rigid command structures that made them slow to respond to unexpected tactics. Nathan's adaptive shielding technology was installed on every human warship just days before the alien fleet reached the Proxima system. The new defensive systems could analyze incoming weapons fire and adjust their frequency response to minimize damage. Human engineers had worked miracles to deploy the technology so quickly, but the real test would come in actual combat against alien weapons. Helen established forward supply bases throughout the Proxima system using converted civilian vessels and orbital platforms. The supply network would allow human forces to maintain combat operations, even if individual ships were damaged or cut off from the main fleet. The aliens expected to face a conventional military force, but instead would encounter a distributed defense system that could continue fighting even after taking heavy losses. The hegemony fleet approached Proxima with overwhelming confidence, despite the delays caused by the Valiant's attack. Zexhai reviewed the tactical data about human capabilities and concluded that their numerical advantage would be decisive. His forces had conquered dozens of species across the galaxy, and humans appeared to be no different from previous enemies. The Overlord ordered his fleet to prepare for a standard assault that would crush human resistance within hours. Patricia positioned her ships throughout the Proxima system using unconventional formations that confused alien scouts. Instead of concentrating her forces for a traditional fleet engagement, she dispersed them to create multiple threat vectors. The human strategy relied on mobility and surprise rather than overwhelming firepower. Each ship captain had independence to engage targets of opportunity while supporting the overall battle plan. Nathan monitored the performance of his new technology as human ships conducted final system tests. The adaptive shielding responded perfectly to simulated alien weapons fire, and the new ammunition designs showed excellent penetration characteristics against enemy armor. Human ingenuity had created weapons and defenses that could compete with superior alien technology through innovation rather than raw power. Helen coordinated the civilian evacuation efforts while maintaining supply lines to the military forces. Thousands of non-combatants were transported to safety behind the human defensive lines, while volunteers remained to support the war effort. The evacuation demonstrated human determination to protect their people while maintaining the resolve to fight for their survival. The alien advance scouts reported unusual human dispositions that did not match any known tactical doctrine in their databases. Zexhai studied the intelligence reports and realized that humans were not following conventional military strategies. Their unpredictable deployment patterns made it difficult to plan effective attacks. The Overlord began to suspect that conquering humanity might not be as simple as his advisors had predicted. Patricia received final status reports from her ship commanders as the alien fleet entered the outer edges of the Proxima system. Every human vessel was ready for combat, with crews trained in the new tactics developed from the Valiant's experience. The coming battle would test human resolve and innovation against superior alien technology and overwhelming numbers. The survival of their species depended on proving that courage and ingenuity could triumph over brute force. Nathan's teams continued monitoring alien communications to gather last-minute intelligence about enemy capabilities and intentions. The hegemony forces were discussing their attack plans with the same arrogant confidence they had shown before losing their advance guard. The aliens still believed that humans were primitive enemies who could be easily defeated despite evidence. To the contrary, Helen established her command post aboard a converted mining platform that gave her oversight of the entire supply network. From this position, she could coordinate support for human forces throughout the system, while managing the continued evacuation of civilians. The platform was heavily defended, but also expendable if necessary to protect more critical assets. Stage was set for the most important battle in human history, as two vastly different military philosophies prepared to clash in the Proxima system. The Hegemony Coalition brought superior technology and overwhelming numbers, while humanity relied on adaptability, innovation, and the fierce determination to survive. The outcome would determine whether humans would continue to expand into the galaxy or become another extinct species in the aliens. Wake of Conquest.zex, single quotes, I gave the order for his fleet to begin the final approach to the main human positions. The Overlord expected to crush human resistance within hours and establish hegemony control over the entire sector. He had no idea that he was about to face an enemy unlike any his forces had ever encountered. The humans were not just fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for the very survival of their species, and that made them more dangerous than any weapon in the galaxy. The Hegemony Coalition fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation with nearly 200 warships, arranged in the traditional assault pattern that had conquered dozens of worlds across the galaxy. Overlord Zexhai stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, watching the tactical displays show the scattered human forces ahead. The 37 human vessels appeared to be deployed randomly throughout the Proxima system with no coherent defensive strategy. The Overlord smiled with satisfaction as he prepared to demonstrate the superiority of hegemony. Military Doctrine. Admiral Patricia Stone watched the alien fleet approach from her position aboard the U.S. Liberty and felt a mixture of fear and determination. The enemy ships were larger and more heavily armed than anything in the human fleet, but she had advantages that the aliens could not understand. Her captains were trained to think independently and adapt to changing situations, while the alien formation showed the rigid structure of a military force that followed orders without question. The battle began exactly as Zexhai expected, with his forces advancing in overwhelming strength toward the scattered human positions. The first wave of alien ships opened fire with devastating energy weapons that should have destroyed the primitive human vessels within minutes. Instead, they encountered adaptive shielding that shifted frequencies in real time to deflect their attacks. The alien weapons fire that should have been lethal barely scratched the human ships. Hull's Captain Helen Davis led her squadron of converted civilian vessels in a desperate charge against the alien left flank. The cargo haulers and mining ships had been equipped with every weapon the human engineers could install, but they were still no match for alien destroyers in direct combat. Helen's strategy relied on speed and surprise rather than firepower as her ships dove through the alien formation like fighters, attacking bombers. The hegemony forces tried to respond to the unexpected human tactics, but their rigid command structure made rapid adaptation impossible. Each alien ship had to request permission from higher command before changing its assigned mission. The delay gave human forces precious seconds to exploit weaknesses in the enemy formation. Patricia's distributed command structure allowed her captains to react instantly to changing battlefield conditions. Commander Jake Morrison brought the repaired Valiant into the battle alongside a group of fast attack vessels that harassed the alien flanks. His ship had been upgraded with Nathan's new technology and carried ammunition specifically designed to penetrate hegemony armor. The Valiant's crew used their hard-won experience to target the most vulnerable points on enemy ships, while avoiding the devastating return fire from alien weapons. Dr. Nathan Brooks monitored the performance of his adaptive technology from a command bunker deep within Proxima Station. The real-time data showed that human defensive systems were working even better than expected. Alien weapons that had destroyed entire fleets in previous campaigns were having minimal effect against ships equipped with the new shielding. The technological advantage that the hegemony had relied upon was being neutralized by human innovation. Zex single quotes HAI watched his advanced units take unexpected casualties as human weapons proved far more effective than intelligence reports had indicated. The primitive human ships were somehow penetrating his force's advanced armor with weapons that should have been completely ineffective. Worse yet, the humans were fighting with a coordination and flexibility that his tactical computers could not predict or counter. The turning point came when Amy Parker, now commanding her own vessel as part of Patricia's fleet, coordinated a brilliant maneuver that used Proxima's gravitational field to accelerate damaged human ships into high-speed ramming attacks. The psychological impact on alien crews was devastating as they watched human vessels turn themselves into guided missiles rather than retreat from battle. No species in hegemony experience had ever fought with such desperate courage. Helen's civilian volunteers proved their worth when a group of mining vessels used their industrial equipment to trap an entire alien squadron in an asteroid field. The mining ships deployed gravitational nets and tractor beams to redirect asteroids into the path of enemy vessels. The improvised tactic caught the aliens completely off guard and resulted in the destruction of 5 hegemony cruisers without. Losing a single human ship, Patricia recognized that the battle was reaching a critical moment as both fleets took heavy casualties. The alien numerical advantage was still overwhelming, but human forces had proven they could inflict significant damage using unconventional tactics. She made the difficult decision to concentrate all remaining human ships for a final assault against the hegemony command vessel. If they could eliminate enemy leadership, the alien fleet might collapse into confusion. Morrison led the Valiant in a suicidal charge toward HFY's flagship, while every other human ship provided covering fire. The massive alien vessel was protected by escorts and defensive platforms, but Patricia gambled that human adaptability could overcome superior firepower. The attack would either win the battle or result in the complete destruction of the human fleet. There was no middle ground in this desperate gambit. Nathan's adaptive shielding reached its limits as human ships endured the concentrated fire of the entire alien fleet. Several vessels were destroyed despite their technological advantages, but the survivors pressed their attack with unwavering determination. The sight of human ships continuing to fight even when heavily damaged shocked alien crews who expected enemies to surrender when faced with overwhelming odds. HFY ordered every weapon on his flagship to concentrate fire on the approaching human vessels, but the adaptive human technology made it impossible to achieve decisive hits. The primitive human ships seemed to absorb damage that should have vaporized them instantly. The Overlord began to realize that his forces were facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. Amy's tactical coordination allowed the human fleet to focus their fire on critical systems aboard the alien flagship. Human weapons designed specifically to counter hegemony technology tore through the enemy ship's defenses with devastating effect. The massive vessel's shields collapsed under the concentrated assault as secondary explosions rippled through its hull. HFY's confidence turned to panic as he realized his supposedly invincible flagship was being destroyed by primitive human weapons. Helen coordinated the final phase of the attack from her mobile command platform while managing supply runs to ships running low on ammunition. The converted civilian vessels continued to support the military units, even as alien fire reduced their numbers. Human determination and innovation had created a fleet that fought with capabilities far beyond what their technology should have allowed. The alien flagship's destruction sent shockwaves through the hegemony fleet as subordinate commanders realized their supreme leader was dead. The rigid command structure that had been their strength became a fatal weakness as ships waited for orders that would never come. Without HFY's central authority, the alien formation began to collapse as individual captains made independent decisions about whether to continue fighting or retreat. Patricia seized the moment of alien confusion to order a general advance by all remaining human forces. The momentum of battle had shifted decisively as hegemony ships found themselves fighting a coordinated enemy while their own command structure fell apart. Human crews who had seemed beaten moments before pressed their attack with renewed vigor. As they sensed victory within their grasp, Morrison brought the battered valiant alongside other surviving human vessels as they pursued the retreating alien forces. The hegemony fleet that had entered the Proxima system with overwhelming confidence was now fleeing in disorder after losing nearly 60% of their ships. The aliens who had viewed humans as insects to be exterminated were now running for their lives from the very species they had sought to destroy. The Battle of Proxima ended with the complete defeat of the Hegemony Coalition's invasion force. Human losses had been severe, but the victory proved that superior technology and numbers meant nothing against the combination of innovation, adaptability, and absolute determination to survive. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had earned its place among the major powers through courage and ingenuity rather than conquest and intimidation. The wreckage floating through the Proxima system told the story of humanity's greatest military victory and the Hegemony Coalition's most devastating defeat. Nearly 60% of the alien invasion force had been destroyed or captured, while the remainder fled back to their home territories with reports that would shake the foundations of their empire. The species that had been dismissed as primitive insects had proven themselves to be among the most dangerous military opponents in the galaxy. Ambassador Robert Chun arrived at the Galactic Council headquarters aboard a human diplomatic vessel, escorted by 3 warships from Admiral Patricia Stone's victorious fleet. The council chambers that had previously refused to even acknowledge human applications for membership now buzzed with urgent discussions about offering humanity full diplomatic recognition. Representatives from dozens of species wanted to establish treaties with the newcomers who had accomplished what no other race had managed in over a century. The council session opened with formal recognition of humanity's victory over the Hegemony Coalition. Species that had remained neutral during the invasion now competed to offer trade agreements and military alliances to the humans. The Altarian Republic presented a proposal for joint research programs, while the Centauri Federation offered access to their advanced shipbuilding facilities. Everyone wanted to be on the winning side now that humanity had proven its strength. Commander Jake Morrison stood before a gathering of human military officers in the newly constructed Deep Space Academy orbiting Jupiter. His promotion to admiral had come with the responsibility of training the next generation of human space commanders. The curriculum he developed emphasized the adaptive thinking and rapid innovation that had won the Battle of Proxima. Traditional military doctrine was important, but creativity under pressure had proven to be humanity's greatest weapon. The cadets studying under Morrison's guidance came from every human colony and represented the future of their species' expansion into the galaxy. They learned not just tactical theory and weapon systems, but also the importance of using every available resource to achieve victory. The mining equipment that had trapped alien squadrons and the civilian vessels that had become auxiliary warships were studied as examples of human ingenuity overcoming technological limitations. Captain Helen Davis supervised the construction of the new Valiant-class warships at the expanded orbital shipyards around Mars. The design incorporated every lesson learned from the war with advanced adaptive shielding as standard equipment and weapon systems specifically created to counter alien technology. The ships were smaller and more maneuverable than traditional human vessels, but carried firepower that could challenge much larger enemy ships. Dr. Nathan Brooks established research facilities throughout human space to continue developing the technology that had proven so effective against the Hegemony Coalition. His teams worked on improving adaptive shielding and creating new weapon systems based on captured alien technology. The research programs also focused on understanding the technological principles that other species used so humans could develop countermeasures against future threats. The first Valiant-class ships entered service under the command of experienced officers who had fought in the Battle of Proxima. Amy Parker received her own command and led a squadron of the new vessels on patrol missions throughout human space. The ships performed exactly as designed, with capabilities that exceeded anything previously built by human shipyards. The galaxy was beginning to recognize that human military technology was advancing at an unprecedented pace. Intelligence reports from throughout the galaxy revealed that the defeat of the Hegemony Coalition had created a power vacuum that other species were rushing to fill. Some alien races saw opportunity in the chaos, while others feared that humanity might become the next aggressive empire seeking to conquer their neighbors. Human diplomats worked carefully to reassure peaceful species, while making it clear that any threats to human territories would be met with overwhelming force. Robert negotiated a series of non-aggression pacts with former hegemony client states, who now found themselves without protection from their alien overlords. The treaties established trade relationships and mutual defense agreements that expanded human influence throughout the sector. Species that had been forced to serve the hegemony gladly allied themselves with humans who offered partnership rather than domination. Morrison received reports from deep space reconnaissance missions that alien species were studying human tactics and trying to develop countermeasures against adaptive technology. The galaxy's military balance was shifting as everyone tried to understand how humans had achieved such a decisive victory. Some species attempted to copy human innovations, while others developed entirely new strategies designed to counter human flexibility. Helen's shipbuilding program expanded to include vessels designed for long-range exploration and colonization, rather than purely military purposes. The new ships carried advanced sensors and communication equipment that would allow humans to establish contact with unknown species before conflicts could develop. Diplomacy backed by proven military strength was becoming the foundation of human expansion policy. Nathan's research teams made breakthrough discoveries about the quantum principles underlying faster-than-light travel and energy weapon technology. The knowledge gained from studying captured hegemony equipment was accelerating human scientific advancement by decades. New transportation systems and communication networks were being developed that would give humanity advantages comparable to those they had achieved in military technology. The rebuilt UES Valiant emerged from the shipyards as the flagship of a new human exploration fleet commanded by Admiral Morrison. The ship incorporated the most advanced technology available and carried a crew trained in the latest tactical innovations. Their mission was to explore unknown sectors of the galaxy and establish contact with species that had never encountered humans before. Amy led her squadron on the first deep space patrol using the new Valiant-class ships and immediately detected alien communications discussing human military capabilities. The intercepted messages revealed a mixture of fear and respect that had been completely absent before the war. Species throughout the galaxy were now treating humanity as a major power rather than an insignificant newcomer to galactic politics. Exploration fleet discovered evidence of other conflicts between the Hegemony Coalition and various alien species throughout the galaxy. The patterns of conquest and extermination revealed that humans had not been the first target of alien aggression, but they had been the first to successfully resist. Other species that had survived hegemony attacks were now seeking human assistance in defending their remaining territories. Robert established diplomatic missions throughout human space to manage the flood of alien delegations seeking treaties and alliances. The demand for human partnership had grown so rapidly that new facilities had to be constructed to accommodate all the representatives wanting to establish formal relationships. The species that had ignored humanity for decades now competed for attention from human diplomats. Morrison monitored long-range communications as the exploration fleet moved through previously unknown sectors of space. The messages they intercepted showed that humanity's reputation had spread far beyond the areas directly affected by the war. Species that had never seen a human ship discussed the defeat of the Hegemony Coalition and speculated about human intentions throughout the galaxy. The final transmission intercepted by the Valiant's communication systems came from a hegemony. Remnant fleet warning other alien forces about human capabilities. The message that had once been used to dismiss humans as harmless pests had been transformed into a desperate warning about the most dangerous military force in the galaxy. The phrase "Red Alert," human battleship detected, they're not here to talk, was now the standard protocol whenever human ships appeared in alien space. Amy smiled as she read the intercepted warning, knowing that humanity had achieved something far more valuable than military victory. They had earned the respect of their enemies and the alliance of potential friends through courage, innovation, and an absolute refusal to accept defeat. The galaxy would never again make the mistake of underestimating the species that had proven survival and adaptability were more powerful than any weapon in the universe.